John Miller rubbed his tired eyes as he studied the latest proposal from the Zoraxian delegation. The bright lights of the Galactic Council chamber made his headache worse. 3 months of peace talks, and still no progress. He took a sip of water and sighed. The massive chamber housed representatives from 32 spacefaring civilizations. Tall, insect-like Zoraxians occupied the highest seats, their chittering whispers echoing through the room. Below them sat the blue-skinned Mindari and the crystalline Foras. Humans, being the newest addition to the galactic community, were given seats at the very bottom. Ambassador Miller, your response to our revised terms. The booming voice of High Counselor Sick cut through the murmurs. John stood up slowly. High Counselor, I've reviewed your proposal. Once again, you demand we surrender mining rights to the Saturn moons, restrict our colony expansion, and share our fusion technology without reciprocal benefits. The Zoraxians' mandibles clicked together. These are reasonable terms for a species barely a century into space travel. John felt a familiar anger rising, but kept his voice steady. He glanced at his tablet where a message from Earth's president had just appeared. Stand firm. Final authorization granted. He looked up at the towering aliens. For 3 months, we've offered compromises. We've been patient. We've been reasonable. But it's now clear the Council has no interest in a fair agreement. An unusual hush fell over the chamber. Even the normally restless Foras stopped their constant swaying. Earth has authorized me to inform you that we are withdrawing from these peace talks, effective immediately. John began collecting his papers, his movements deliberate. High Counselor Exik rose to his full 12-foot height. This is most irregular, Ambassador. Perhaps you misunderstood our terms. I understand perfectly, John replied, closing his briefcase. Your terms would make Earth a client state, not a partner. We didn't come all this way to become servants. Diplomat Ilara of the Mindari stepped forward, her blue skin pulsing with concern. Ambassador Miller, please reconsider. The Council can be flexible. John gave her a small smile. She had been the only one who treated humans as equals. I'm sorry, Ilara. The decision is made. As John walked toward the exit, the chamber erupted in voices. Many council members were laughing, certain this was just a negotiation tactic. They'll be back within a week, he heard someone say. John didn't turn around. Back on the human diplomatic vessel, John found Admiral Patricia Martins waiting for him. Her uniform was crisp, her expression grim. It's done, he said simply. She nodded. The defense fleet received the alert. Silent protocol is already in effect. John looked out the viewport at the gleaming council station. How long before they realize this isn't a bluff? Depends on how arrogant they choose to be, Patricia said, bringing up a secure screen. Mobilization is underway. Dr. Wright reports the new systems are ready for deployment. John watched as their ship pulled away from the station. 3 months I sat in that chamber, listening to them talk about humans like we were children. Did any of them ever study Earth history, I wonder? Patricia's face hardened. They're about to get a crash course. Their ship accelerated toward the jump point. Behind them, the Council continued their meeting, already discussing how to bring the humans back to the table with minor concessions. They think we're weak because we prefer peace, John said quietly. Patricia checked the secure channel where coded orders were already being transmitted to Earth's scattered forces, a common mistake throughout human history. John settled into his chair as the stars blurred around them. How long until we reach Earth? 14 hours. Just enough time for you to brief the president while I coordinate with General Williams. As their ship vanished into faster-than-light travel, no one on the council station noticed the other human vessels quietly departing from various ports across council space. By morning, every human diplomat, trader, and observer would be gone. The silence would be Earth's first message. The storm would be its second. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. 2 days had passed since the humans left, and the shouting had not stopped. This human tantrum is meaningless. High Counselor Exik slammed his clawed appendage against the table. They need our trade routes. They need our technology. They will return begging. Diplomat Ilara of the Mindari stood, her blue skin darkening with stress. I spent 6 months on Earth as part of the exchange program. You are all making a terrible mistake. The gathered representatives laughed. A tall Fora's delegate's crystal body flickered with amused light patterns. What can they do? Their ships are slow. Their weapons are basic. Ilara shook her head. You misunderstand humans. They don't think like us. High Counselor Exik waved her concerns away. Enough. Let them sulk. We will position defense fleets near their colony worlds. When they see our power, they will return to negotiations. In the back of the chamber, intelligence analyst Rex approached his superior with a datapad. Sir, we've lost all signals from our monitoring outposts near Earth space. The older Zoraxian barely glanced at the report. Equipment failures. Send repair drones. Rex hesitated. All 6 outposts failed simultaneously. Sir. Coincidence. Dismiss. The meeting continued, with most species voting to increase pressure on human worlds. Only the Mindari voted against the measure. Meanwhile on Earth, Secretary Alan Collins stood in the underground war room beneath the Rocky Mountains. Screens lined the walls, showing fleet positions and resource allocations. All council monitoring stations have been neutralized, a young officer reported. Alan nodded. Any response? None yet. They likely think it's a technical issue. The largest screen showed a live feed from Mars colony, where workers installed new weapons on Earth's ships. The weapons looked ordinary, but contained Dr. Wright's new technology. Time until the fleet is ready? Alan asked. General Peter Williams stepped forward. 72 hours. We're moving faster than expected. Alan studied the map of Council space. The Zoraxians are moving ships to our border colonies, exactly as we predicted. Should we warn our colonists to evacuate? Asked Sinead. No, Alan replied. That would alert the Council. Captain Rodriguez and the U.S. Defiant are already in position near Proxima Centauri. She knows what to do if they cross the line. Back in Council space, Diplomat Ilara sat alone in her quarters, watching the last recording of Ambassador Miller's departure. She had studied humans more than any other Council member. She understood what the others didn't. Her assistant entered the room. The Council has voted to send a message to Earth, demanding they return to talks within 10 days or face sanctions. Ilara sighed. Have we received any communications from Earth since they left? None. All human diplomatic channels are silent. Even their commercial vessels have stopped transmitting. And this doesn't worry anyone? Ilara asked. The assistant shrugged. High Counselor Exik says it's proof they're afraid. Ilara turned back to the screen. When I lived among humans, I visited a place called a zoo. There was a small furry animal called a honey badger. The zookeeper told me it was one of the most dangerous creatures on their planet despite its size. When threatened, it doesn't posture or threaten back. It simply attacks. She shut off the screen. The Council thinks human politeness is weakness. They never bothered to study human history. Humans don't start fights, but they finish them. At that moment, across Council space, the last human merchant ships quietly jumped to hyperspace, heading home. The Zoraxian fleet commander near Proxima Centauri received his orders: enter human territory and secure the colony as leverage. As his 6 warships moved toward the human world, he noticed a single small human vessel holding position near the jump point. His crew laughed at the tiny destroyer. They send 1 ship, the commander said. This will be even easier than we thought. The human vessel made no attempt to run or call for help. It simply waited, engines powered down, weapon systems apparently offline. The trap was set. Dr. Samantha Wright moved through the underground laboratory on Mars, her footsteps echoing against metal floors. Around her, engineers and scientists worked on various pieces of technology that would soon go into space. Status update. She asked her assistant. Final testing phase complete. The shield penetration tech works even better than we predicted. Samantha nodded, stopping at a workstation where a technician adjusted a small, unassuming device. To the untrained eye, it looked like a standard power coupling. In reality, it was the key to defeating alien shield technology. They never thought we'd figure it out, Samantha said quietly. 5 years we sat in their meetings, watching them show off their superior technology. 5 years we studied every weakness. The technician looked up. They never noticed. Why would they? They think we're primitive. Samantha picked up the device, turning it over in her hands. The Zoraxians use a triple-phase shield matrix. Impressive, but it has to reset for 0.3 seconds between cycles. That's our window. Her communicator beeped. Commander Eric Johnson appeared on the screen. Dr. Wright, installation has begun on the fleet. How soon can you send the final batch? They're being loaded now. You'll have everything within 6 hours. Eric nodded. Good. The Zoraxians have crossed into the Proxima Centauri system. Captain Rodriguez is in position. Will she be okay with just one ship? Eric smiled slightly. Her ship has the first set of upgrades, and Rodriguez was a tactical prodigy of the Academy. The Zoraxians have no idea what they're walking into. Meanwhile, on the Council station, intelligence analyst Rix was becoming increasingly concerned. He stared at his monitor, where large sections of scanning data from human space appeared completely blank. Sir, he said to his supervisor, we have a problem. We're not getting any readings from these sectors. The older Zoraxian barely looked up. Equipment failure. I told you to send repair drones. I did, sir. They never reported back. Rix pulled up another screen. And look at these energy readings from Mars. They've doubled in the past week. Mining operations, obviously. The humans need resources for their colonies. Rix wasn't convinced. Sir, with respect, I think they're building something. And our surveillance network near their space has been systematically disabled. His supervisor finally looked up, irritated. Analyst Rix, the humans have 43 warships total. We have over 400 in our fleet alone. Whatever they're building is irrelevant. Back on Earth, General Peter Williams walked through a holographic map of Council space. Red dots showed Zoraxian fleet positions. Blue dots showed human forces. They're moving exactly as predicted, he said to the officers gathered around the table. Their arrogance makes them predictable. A young lieutenant spoke up. Sir, they outnumber us nearly 10-1. Peter smiled. Numbers aren't everything, Lieutenant. The Zoraxians rely on overwhelming force. They've never needed to be clever. He pointed to key positions on the map. These are their fuel production facilities, their command relay stations, their shield generator planets. Hit these targets, and their numbers become meaningless. And our colonists, sir, they're vulnerable. Not as vulnerable as the Council thinks. Each colony has been preparing for this possibility for years. Peter zoomed in on Proxima Centauri. Captain Rodriguez will demonstrate that shortly. In deep space, Captain Lisa Rodriguez sat in the command chair of the U.S. Defiant. Her ship's systems were running in passive mode, appearing dormant to Zoraxian scanners. 6 massive alien warships approached her position. All hands to battle stations. Silent running, she ordered calmly. Her weapons officer looked nervous. Captain, they outgun us 6-1. Lisa watched the enemy ships grow larger on the view screen. Quality over quantity, Lieutenant. Wait until they cross the boundary line. The bridge was quiet as the Zoraxian ships moved closer. The boundary marker that separated Council space from human territory was just ahead of them. They think we're easy prey, Lisa said softly. Let's change their minds. The first Zoraxian ship crossed the boundary. Shields up. Weapons hot. Let them see us now, Lisa ordered. The U.S. Defiant came to life, its systems powering up so suddenly that the Zoraxian scanners showed a massive energy spike. The trap was sprung. and humanity's response had officially begun. The Zoraxian commander laughed as his 6 warships surrounded the lone human vessel. His bridge crew watched the small destroyer with amusement. The human ship was barely 1/4 the size of even the smallest Zoraxian cruiser. "Open communications," the commander ordered. "Let us hear their surrender." On the U.S. Defiant, Captain Lisa Rodriguez received the incoming transmission. "Human vessel, this is Commander Vrax of the Zoraxian Empire. You have 2 minutes to power down your systems and prepare for boarding. This colony is now under Zoraxian protection." Lisa sat calmly in her command chair. Interesting choice of words, Commander. Protection usually means you're defending someone, not invading their home. The Zoraxian's mandibles clicked with annoyance. "Your species' withdrawal from peace talks shows your immaturity. The Council has decided you need guidance." "I see." Lisa nodded to her weapons officer. "Target their lid ship. Prepare to fire on my mark." The Zoraxian commander's image flickered on the screen. "You cannot be serious. Your vessel is outgunned. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields." Lisa smiled slightly. "You might want to check your shield diagnostics, Commander." She cut the transmission. "Weapons hot. Fire." A single pulse shot out from the Defiant, striking the lead Zoraxian ship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the massive warship's shields flickered and died completely. Inside the Zoraxian vessel, alarms blared as systems failed one after another. The commander stared in disbelief at his control panel. "Impossible. All power systems are failing." His second-in-command shouted over the noise. "Shields are completely down. Weapons offline. The other ships. The human vessel is targeting them one by one." In less than 20 minutes, all 6 Zoraxian warships floated powerless in space. Their life support systems functioned at minimal levels, but nothing else worked. On the Defiant, Lisa's crew cheered as the last enemy ship went dark. Lisa raised her hand for quiet. "This isn't a victory celebration. It's a demonstration." She turned to her communications officer. "Open a channel to Commander Vrax's ship." The Zoraxian commander appeared on screen again, emergency lighting casting red shadows across his face. "What have you done to our ships?" he demanded. Lisa leaned forward in her chair. "We've disabled them. Your life support will hold for about 72 hours. That should be enough time for your distress signal to reach the nearest Zoraxian outpost." The commander's mandibles trembled with rage. "This is an act of war." "No, Commander. An act of war was sending 6 battleships to invade a human colony." Lisa's voice remained calm. "You crossed our border after we withdrew from talks. You intended to take our citizens hostage for negotiation leverage." She stood up. "I'm giving you enough power to send one message and to limp back to your territory. When you reach your leaders, tell them this was a warning shot." The transmission ended. The bridge of the Defiant was silent. "Will they listen, Captain?" the young weapons officer asked. Lisa watched as minimal power returned to the Zoraxian vessels. "Some will. Others won't believe it until they see more evidence." Back on the Council station, alarms spread as reports of the Proxima Centauri incident arrived. High Counselor Exik called an emergency meeting, his usual confidence shaken. "How did one human ship disable 6 of our most advanced warships?" he demanded. Diplomat Ilara stood. "Perhaps now you'll listen to my warnings about underestimating humans." Intelligence Analyst Rix rushed into the chamber, ignoring protocol. "Counselors, we've detected unusual activity near multiple Zoraxian outposts. Small human vessels have been spotted briefly before disappearing from our scanners." High Counselor Exik's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress. "Deploy the main fleet. Find these human ships and destroy them." Diplomat Ilara shook her head sadly. "It's too late for that. The humans didn't withdraw from talks because they were weak. They withdrew because they no longer needed them." As council members argued loudly, a message arrived from Earth, the first communication since their departure. It contained just 5 words. This is only the beginning. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so divided. A week after the Proxima Centauri incident, representatives shouted over each other as High Counselor Exik struggled to maintain order. The humans must be crushed immediately. Exik pounded his clawed appendage on the podium. They attacked our ships without provocation. Diplomat Ilara stood firm against the tide of anger. Your ships crossed into their territory after they withdrew from talks. By our own laws, they were defending themselves. Aphora's representative's crystalline body flashed with agitation. One ship should not have been able to disable 6 of our most advanced vessels. They must have been developing weapons in secret for years. While sitting at our negotiating table, Ilara added, "What does that tell you about how seriously they took the talks?" In a private chamber adjacent to the main hall, Ambassador Kevin Hayes of Earth sat with representatives from 3 smaller council races, the Vril, the Taurians, and the Novan Collective. Unlike the public spectacle in the main chamber, this meeting was calm and focused. "My government offers each of your species individual peace treaties," Kevin said. "Non-aggression pacts, trade agreements, and mutual defense if needed." The Vril ambassador, a small amphibious being, leaned forward. "Separate from the council framework. That violates council law." Kevin smiled slightly. The council didn't seem to mind violating its own laws when it sent warships into our territory. The Taurian representative, tall and covered in short fur, looked nervous. "The Zoraxians will see this as betrayal." "Perhaps," Kevin acknowledged. "But ask yourselves how the Zoraxians have treated your colonies and trade routes over the years. Are they allies or overlords?" None of the representatives answered. They all knew the truth. For decades, the Zoraxian Empire had used its majority control of the Council to bully smaller species. "We don't ask you to fight," Kevin continued, "only to step aside. Declare neutrality." The Novan representative, a being of living metal, made a soft chiming sound. "And if we refuse?" Kevin's expression remained pleasant, but his eyes hardened. "Then nothing changes. But know that when the Zoraxians fall, those who stood with them will share their fate." Across Council space, Earth's stealth reconnaissance vessels moved undetected through Zoraxian defense grids. On one such ship, Lieutenant Carl Dias carefully mapped a massive fuel production facility orbiting a gas giant. "Final scan complete," he reported to his captain. "Their defense grid has 3 weak points. Sending coordinates now." The captain nodded. "Good work. Return to stealth formation. We move to the next target in 30 minutes." Similar missions were happening across 27 Zoraxian military installations. Like shadows, human ships appeared and disappeared before Zoraxian sensors could lock onto them. Back in the main council chamber, an aide rushed to High Counselor Exik, whispering urgently in his ear. The Zoraxian leader's posture stiffened with alarm. "What is it?" asked a fellow council member. Exik's voice was tight with rage. "The Vril, the Taurians, and the Novans have just announced they are withdrawing from the Council Mutual Defense Pact. They claim neutrality in any conflict with Earth." The chamber erupted again. Diplomat Ilara noticed the shock on Exik's face and wondered what other news he had received. Whatever it was, he wasn't sharing it with the Council. On Earth, General Peter Williams studied a holographic display of Zoraxian space. Red dots showed their primary military targets. "All reconnaissance teams have reported in," his aide said. "Strike packages are ready." Peter nodded. "And our special operations teams?" "In position near all primary targets." "Then we're ready." Peter turned to Secretary Alan Collins, who had been watching silently. "With your permission, sir, we can begin Phase 1. Alan looked at the display, at the countless stars where humans and aliens lived. So much could be lost if this escalated too far. "The Council still refuses direct communication?" he asked. "Yes, sir. High Counselor Exik will only accept our unconditional return to the previous terms." Alan sighed. "Then they leave us no choice. Commence Phase 1. Peter nodded to his communications officer. Send the go order. All teams, execute. Across Zoraxian space, human forces moved into attack position. The real war was about to begin. Major Frank Nelson checked his team's equipment one final time as their stealth shuttle approached the massive Zoraxian fuel production facility. The gas giant loomed large in the view screen, its swirling storms casting strange light across the bridge. 2 minutes to insertion point, the pilot announced. Frank turned to his team of 12 Special Forces soldiers. Remember, no casualties. We disable, not destroy. The soldiers nodded. Each wore lightweight armor with built-in stealth technology developed by Dr. Wright. They looked like shadows even in the shuttle's bright lighting. Control systems are our primary target, Frank continued. Secondary targets are the shield generators and communication arrays. The shuttle slipped past the outer defense grid using the weak points mapped by Lieutenant Dias. No alarms sounded. No weapons fired. The Zoraxians had no idea they were there. Similar teams approached 20 other fuel facilities across Zoraxian space, all moving in perfect coordination. On Earth, Chief Technology Officer Linda Baker sat in a dimly lit room surrounded by screens. She typed final commands into her system. Backdoor access confirmed, she reported. I have control of all communication systems we installed during the peace talks. Secretary Collins nodded. How long have these backdoors been in place? Since the beginning, Linda replied. Every piece of technology we shared with the Council contained hidden pathways. They were so eager to analyze our primitive systems, they never considered we might be studying them. She pressed the final key sequence. Executing now. Across Council space, Zoraxian military networks began to fail. Defense grids went offline. Communication systems displayed nonsense. Navigation computers showed false readings. At the main Zoraxian fuel facility, Frank's team moved through the corridors like ghosts. The few Zoraxian workers they encountered were quickly subdued with non-lethal stun weapons. Central control room secured. Frank reported over his comm. Planting shutdown devices now. His tech specialist attached small devices to the main control panels. The machinery around them began to power down systematically. Fuel production ceased, initiating controlled shutdown of safety systems. Frank checked his watch. 7 minutes. Right on schedule. Across Zoraxian space, the story repeated. Fuel facilities shutting down one after another. No alarms, no casualties, just silent, efficient precision. On the Council station, chaos reigned. High Counselor Exik received emergency reports from across Zoraxian territory. What do you mean all facilities are offline? He shouted at his military commander. How can humans be attacking everywhere at once? The commander's image flickered on the screen. We don't know. Our systems are failing. Our communications are compromised. We've lost contact with the defense fleet. Diplomat Ilara watched from across the chamber as Kazik's composure crumbled. Other council members began to understand the gravity of the situation. They disabled our entire fuel production network in one day. A Fora's representative asked in disbelief. Without a single casualty, Ilara added, reading from her own reports. No Zoraxian has been harmed. High Counselor Exik turned on her. You sound impressed. I am, she admitted. They could have killed thousands. Instead, they chose precision. This isn't vengeance. It's strategy. Intelligence analyst Rix rushed into the chamber, his normal protocol forgotten in a crisis. Counselors, we've discovered something disturbing, he said. All the technology the humans shared with us over the years, the communication systems, the navigational aids, the data networks, they all contain hidden code. The chamber fell silent. What kind of code? Asked the Fora's representative. Backdoors. Control mechanisms. The humans have had access to our systems for years. Rix looked shaken. We thought we were studying their technology. All along, they were using it to study us. High Counselor Hekshik collapsed into his seat. For the first time, true fear showed in his posture. On Earth, Secretary Collins received the reports from all strike teams. Every mission successful. 0 casualties on either side. The Zoraxian fuel network was completely disabled. Phase 1 complete, General Williams announced. The Zoraxian fleet now has fuel reserves for approximately 2 weeks of operation. Collins nodded. Prepare Phase 2 and open a channel to the diplomatic corps. It's time to present our terms. As Earth's military celebrated their bloodless victory, Ambassador Miller prepared for his return to the Council Station. This time, he would dictate the terms. The Galactic Council chamber looked very different from when Ambassador John Miller had left it. The bright lights were dimmed. Emergency power systems hummed in the background. And most notably, High Counselor Exik was absent from his elevated seat. The High Counselor has been removed from his position, Diplomat Ilara explained as she led the emergency delegation down the corridor. The Council has appointed me to lead peace negotiations. Behind her walked representatives from 15 Council species. All looked nervous. None made eye contact with the humans. That was quick, John remarked. Just a week ago, he was calling for our destruction. That was before you disabled our entire fuel network and exposed backdoors in all our systems. Ilara replied. Many colonies are already reporting resource shortages. Some have begun riots. They entered a small meeting room, much humbler than the Grand Chamber where previous talks had been held. Ambassador Susan Clark waited inside, Earth's terms already displayed on the table's built-in screens. Thank you for agreeing to meet, Susan said as the delegation took their seats. Aforo's representative's crystalline body flashed with agitation. We had little choice. Your attacks have crippled Zoraxian infrastructure. Attacks? Susan raised an eyebrow. Not a single life was lost. We could have bombed those facilities. Instead, we temporarily disabled them. A distinction that matters little when our worlds cannot receive essential supplies, the Forest countered. Susan leaned forward. A temporary problem with a simple solution. Accept our terms. She activated the main screen, displaying Earth's demands. Full autonomy for all human colonies, no restrictions on our expansion or development. Reparations for economic damage caused by Council trade restrictions, and a complete restructuring of the Council to prevent any single species from controlling decisions. The delegation looked at the terms in silence. Finally, Ilara spoke. These are significant demands. They are non-negotiable, Susan replied. You have 72 hours to accept. The Fora's representative's body flashed again. Or what? You'll attack more facilities. Phase 2 would target military installations rather than infrastructure, Susan said calmly. We would regret that escalation. As the Council representatives whispered among themselves, an aide rushed into the room and handed Ilara a datapad. Her blue skin paled as she read it. Is something wrong? Susan asked. Ilara looked up, her expression shocked. Your ships, they're everywhere. We're detecting human vessels near 27 key military outposts simultaneously. Our long-range scanners show they appeared out of nowhere. Susan smiled slightly. Not out of nowhere. They've been there for days. You're only detecting them now because we want you to. A murmur ran through the delegation. The implications were clear. Earth could have attacked at any time. There's something else, Ilara said, still staring at the datapad. Your ships are communicating with each other instantly across vast distances. That's impossible. Even our best faster-than-light communication has a delay. Susan didn't respond, but her smile remained. The delegation huddled together, speaking in urgent whispers. Finally, Ilara straightened. We need to consult with our governments. Of course, Susan replied. You have 72 hours. The delegation filed out, leaving Susan and John alone in the room. They'll accept, John said. They have no choice. Susan nodded. The question is whether they'll honor the agreement once their systems are back online. They will once they understand what else we've been hiding, John replied. The FTL communication system is just the beginning. Back on the Council station, Lara called an emergency meeting of all remaining council species. "I've analyzed the human terms," she told the gathered representatives. Despite their position of strength, they're being remarkably reasonable. They could demand our surrender. Instead, they're asking for equality. A Zoraxian military officer objected. "We cannot show weakness." Lara turned to him, her patience gone. "Our weakness was exposed the moment we underestimated them. The humans never wanted war. They simply refused to be treated as inferiors." On her screen, the countdown timer displayed the remaining hours until Earth's deadline. Time was running out for the Council to admit its mistake. 1 month after the Council accepted Earth's terms, the newly formed Galactic Federation held its first official meeting. The massive space station orbiting Jupiter gleamed in the sunlight, its design a collaboration between 27 species. Inside the main chamber, representatives sat in a circle. No species had higher seats than others. All were equal under the historic Earth Accord. Ambassador Daniel Kim of Earth stood to address the gathering. At 42, he was the youngest human ever appointed to the position of Galactic Ambassador. "Welcome to the first session of the Galactic Federation," he began. "Today marks a new chapter in our shared history." The representatives applauded politely. Even the Zoraxians, now reduced to equal status with other species, joined in. "Our first order of business is the Technology Sharing Initiative," Daniel continued. "Under the new accord, all member species will contribute to a common database of scientific knowledge." A Zoraxian representative raised his hand. "And what guarantees do we have that this knowledge won't be used against us in the future?" Daniel smiled. "The same guarantee we all have: mutual benefit. Isolation leads to fear. Fear leads to conflict. By sharing knowledge, we build trust." The Zoraxian didn't look convinced, but he didn't argue further. In a private observation lounge above the main chamber, Admiral Patricia Martinez and Ambassador John Miller watched the proceedings. Below them, representatives from races that had been enemies just months ago now discussed trade agreements and cultural exchanges. "Did you ever think we'd get here?" Patricia asked. John watched as Daniel skillfully guided the discussion. "Not this quickly. I expected years of tension before reaching any kind of stability." The Proxima Centauri demonstration changed everything, Patricia said. 1 ship against 6. No deaths, just a clear message. John nodded. "Though I'm glad we didn't have to implement Phase 2. "Me too. I've spent my career preparing for war, hoping never to fight one." Patricia turned from the window. "Have you heard? They're dismantling the old council station. Each species gets a piece as a reminder." "Poetic justice," John replied. "Though I'm surprised the Zoraxians accepted their new position so easily. They didn't have much choice. Once their colonies realized they could join the Federation directly, many threatened to break away." Patricia checked her watch. "The president's calling. I should go." Left alone, John continued watching the meeting below. An alien historian moved among the representatives, recording the historic session. She paused to speak with Daniel, and John could read the question on her lips. How did Earth manage to defeat the most powerful empire in the galaxy without firing a shot? Daniel's answer was too quiet to hear, but John knew what he would say. The same thing John had realized during those frustrating months of failed negotiations. Humans never wanted war. They simply refused to be bullied. On the other side of the station, Linda Baker showed a group of alien scientists Earth's faster-than-light communication system. "The principle is simple," she explained. "We discovered it 5 years ago, but kept it secret. Why share it now?" asked the Novan scientist. "Because knowledge grows when shared," Linda replied, "and because trust must start somewhere." Across the station, Dr. Samantha Wright supervised the installation of shield harmonizer technology on Zoraxian vessels, the same technology that had once been used against them. "This will prevent the vulnerability you experienced at Proxima Centauri," she told the Zoraxian engineers. "Why help us fix our weakness?" one asked. "Because we're not enemies anymore," Samantha said simply. As the day ended, stars became visible through the station's massive windows. Ships from dozens of worlds docked at the newly built Federation port, their crews mingling in the common areas. The Galactic Council had fallen, but something better had taken its place. Not an organization built on dominance and fear, but one founded on equality and mutual respect. All because humans had walked away from a table where they weren't welcome, only to build a better one where everyone had a seat.